So Darlene Harbour is the president of the Lovelace Scientific Resources, and she will make a lot of the things that we put forth today reality. And what I envision for the next 12 to 18 months in LSR is that we're going to provide you with some of the things that we've discussed today. Specifically, I'm really interested in bringing clinical trials to New Mexico and to Albuquerque. So I'm committed to actually passing on to pharmaceutical companies the strong interest that I perceive today from many of the participants. And I think that there's a true opportunity for pharmaceutical companies to come in and provide and fill in this gap that exists. And again, it's structured in the way that we've described. It's a science that we've been talking about, and it's the type of trials that we favor. Now, we have a very biased perspective of how we should approach your care. We think it's the best, but we don't think that necessarily it's the right way. We leave it up to you to decide what's best for you. But we don't only want to provide you with opportunities to participate in clinical research trial, but give us some feedback regarding what are the unmet needs of your community and how we as an institution can try to address these issues. I strongly encourage you to participate in research, not in clinical research trials, but to participate in research. I've been in the business for 15 years now, and I have found that patients who are actually motivated to participate in research have much more positive interactions with the healthcare community, are better informed, and have this healthy user effect about participation. And so the other thing that I'm very committed to is creating a registry, and this registry will be primarily to try to identify patients with IPF and encourage them to participate in clinical research. But as we move along, there may be other needs for the local community in terms of creating disease registries. We've successfully done this in many locations. I actually have a program at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda where I did my training many years ago. And to this day, I have a research collaboration in which I fly patients from throughout the country to go to Bethesda and have a thorough, comprehensive evaluation of their disease for research purposes. So, as an example, I have patients that I approach in my clinic that I think are good research candidates and ask them if they're willing to participate in the study. If they are, we fly them to Bethesda. For the patient, all the expenses are covered. They stay in what is supposed to be a hospital, but it's a fantastic location in Bethesda, which is a beautiful neighborhood, and they get their testing done in the afternoon. They go down to the mall and go to the museums and visit our capital. So that's just one example of how through the last 12 to 15 years I have a continued collaboration, a scientific collaboration with a very important institution, which is the National Institutes of Health. And I'm here in Albuquerque today, and my primary practice is in Boston, so I also have a very strong collaboration and connection at a scientific level and now at a clinical level with the community. And I intend to actually continue to make this grow. And I think one of my most important partners in all this activity will be Darlene. So I again want to thank all of you for your patience and your participation. And I'm committed to coming back next year, and Darlene will explain a little bit better on how we're going to go about creating a support group and continue to interact with you. But I encourage you all to leave your contact information with our staff so that we can be in touch with you and provide you with the information on how we're going to continue to provide all this support. So Darlene, please tell us how you're going to do this.
Thank you, Dr. Rosas. So Lovelace Scientific Resources, I want to introduce LSR to you all here in the audience and explain a little bit about what we do. So if you've been in the state of New Mexico for any length of time, you realize that the Lovelace name is out there a lot, and most people affiliate the Lovelace name with the medical center, the hospital, and the healthcare delivery systems. And Lovelace Scientific Resources and the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute are not part of the healthcare delivery plan. We do actually work with some of those physicians that are part of the Lovelace healthcare delivery system, but we are not affiliated with them in any way. So Lovelace Scientific Resources is the medical division of the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute. And Dr. Robert Rubin gave the first talk this morning about the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute and some of the research that they do in the community today. But the Clinical Medical Research Division of Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute was established in 1987. It was primarily designed to do what we're trying to get set up today, and that is to bring clinical research to the community. And by doing that, we're able to offer different treatment options to people that may not have access to health care, or there may not be a treatment option or good treatment options in their particular diseases, and IPF being one of them. So we're not only located here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but we have research centers in Austin, Texas, and Sarasota and Venice, Florida. So I want to introduce you to the LSR's medical team. When you come to our facility, it's very much coming to a clinic or to your physician's office. Even though we're dedicated to medical research, we have physicians, nurse practitioners, nurses of all different types of levels. We have respiratory therapists, lab technicians, phlebotomists, etc. And two of our physicians are here today. Dr. Michael McGuire, if you would stand up, please, and Dr. Johnny Salyer. So if you ever come to our facility and participate in any of the medical research that we have going on, it's likely that you will spend time with either one of these physicians or some of the other physicians that we collaborate with in the community. So LSR's mission is to promote health through clinical research. And just to give you a little bit of history about our company, we've done over 1,000 clinical research programs in a wide variety of medical conditions. But because we are affiliated with the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute, obviously we do a lot of work in pulmonary disease, and we're very excited now about being able to offer another indication of IPF. So our partners are the Brigham IPF program, and Dr. Rosas is our Director of Pulmonary Fibrosis program here at LSR. And with our partners, we are going to be implementing an IPF program here in New Mexico, and really to support the pulmonary fibrosis patients in our community. So some of the goals of being able to support our community is to provide education. Obviously, if you have IPF or if you're a caregiver of IPF, you've already done a lot of research about how to take care of yourselves and some of the support systems that you can have access to. But through research, we want to be able to offer treatment options that may not be already available in the community, and also to develop a better understanding of IPF itself. Currently, there's basically no research being conducted in our community or in the state of New Mexico on IPF. So we realize that there's a huge unmet need in taking care of patients with IPF, managing their disease, and providing new treatment options. So one of our goals is to, as Dr. Rosas mentioned, is to create an IPF registry. Basically, registries are designed to keep your contact information with us so that we can let you know about new things that come out in the community. It's designed to help track the progression of your disease. It's designed to keep you in touch with new treatment options available as they become available to us. So anyway, we invite you to meet our staff at Lovelace Scientific Resources. I've given you some contact information there. The main thing that's in your program is to know that we have our website address listed there. We're going to post the entire program on the website. We'll have a place for you to provide your contact information. You can sign up with us today if you prefer or do not have access to the internet. And it'll be a way for us to keep in communication with you and for you to keep in communication with us. Obviously, we'll be working very closely with Dr. Rosas and the team at Brigham. And, hopefully we'll be able to build a great support here in our community for those of you with IPF.
Great. Thanks, Lovelace.
So any questions? Yes.
You touched earlier on or throughout that research is being done here and that it's being funded by different sources, pharmaceutical companies, maybe government grants, things like that. And in our world, money talks, so the research projects that get the most money, usually their research is more advanced than others. But because IPF is a fairly unknown type of thing, how much of dollar percentage is actually going towards IPF research, and what can we do, other than donation money, to really funnel more money into this clinical research for IPF? Because it seems like anything's taking more than 10 years. By that time, the patient is gone in most cases.
This is a fabulous question. And a question that for years, the community, scientific, and the community affected with the disease have grappled with. And, believe it or not, over the last 10 years, the NIH, which is basically the government, or the arm of the government that responds to the medical needs of our community, has been extremely supportive of IPF research. And so when I got into this business, which was in the late 1990s, in the turn of the century, there was really not a lot of focus on IPF. If I had an IPF clinic, the outcome of that visit was mostly, transplant was actually becoming an option. At that time, I was actually doing my formal transplant training, so it was exciting. But I couldn't offer any clinical trials. As a matter of fact, the largest IPF trial that I'm aware of began in the early 2000s, which is the same company that's sponsoring pirfenidone, and was actually testing interferon gamma. And some of you who've had this disease for some time may have heard of interferon gamma. But this was the first experience that we had, and the trial was completed in the year 2004. So I think you're right, It's only been since 2004 that we've had a formal experience with clinical trials. And one would think that there has really not been a strong interest in IPF. But from patients, from providers, from pharmaceutical companies, and even from venture capital, there's a tremendous awareness of the importance of this disease. And so to reassure you, there is really a lot of focus on this disease, both from government and the private industry. But I think one point that you bring here, which I really would like to stress upon, is what can you do? Or what can anybody else in this room actually do to contribute to this? And this was what this session was all about. So a patient can contribute in many ways, right? The patient can actually be part of a research registry and contribute to knowledge. Or a patient can be enrolled into a clinical trial that's safely designed and sound to see if there is a potential cure for this disease. So as a patient, you can already do a lot. It has nothing to do with financial incentives or things of that sort. And as a provider, there is a lot of things that you can do as well. You can partner with the person who has this disease to educate yourself about it and provide with this person with the motivation and the opportunity to actually do this. So I think that I'll reassure you that there's a strong interest, financial interest as a matter of fact. There's a lot of quote-unquote money to make from developing the treatment for this disease. And I think we all want it, right? We're not against the type of economy that we have in this country. Good for a pharmaceutical company who can actually get the Medicaid dollars that are going to come for actually curing this disease. They deserve it. There's going to have to be a tremendous amount of investment coming from the pharmaceutical industry. But there's a lot of interest. There's 140-something trials is what Dr. El-Shamali quoted. And to my knowledge right now, there's ongoing at least 5-6 trials they're actively recruiting that we could bring within the next year to us. And so I think the pharmaceutical industry is extremely invested. The NIH, the government, is extremely invested in actually sponsoring, funding investigators to try to find the mechanisms of this disease that then will feed into the pharmaceutical industries. So I think that coalition already exists. And part of what we're doing today is to educate you so that you can be part of the coalition, so you can be part of the solution, so so that you can actually try to engage in the challenges associated with developing a therapy and provide not through financial support or even donations, but through participation, active participation, being able to carry forward our mission, which is to find a cure, not transplant, but a cure for this disease in the form of medical therapy. And to some extent, we've described how we can do that today, but I strongly encourage you and everybody in this room to take a pen, write down your address, your telephone number, and provide it to the staff so that when there are these clinical trials come, you have at least the option to decide if you would like to participate. At least you would get the information. And I think that's a huge first step. Actually, the second step, because I want to commend all of you for being here today. That's the first step. The first step is that you're interested, that you want to be a part of the solution, which is what you're expressing. And I think that you and your relatives or patients who have this disease already have significant burden to deal with. I think that the other side of the partnership is the scientific groups who are actually interested in increasing the knowledge about this disease, the clinical research teams that have a lot of experience and are really invested in trying to improve the quality of life of patients with IPF, and patients. And if we all get together, I am certain that we're going to find the solution for this problem. You know, when I started practicing pulmonary medicine 15 years ago, I was basically taught a couple of things. One is that if you have an IPF patient, you might as well just tell them to go back home and do nothing about it. And then from a scientific perspective, one of the first scientists that I met said, you're interested in IPF? That's going to kill your career. There's nothing to do there. And I really think that there's a lot of cynicism and I think there's a lot of researchers and physicians of later years that actually were trained and grew up with these concepts, but those are not your doctors of now. I think your doctors of now, and again, I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, are really invested in making a difference and taking part of this. You have to understand where your physicians are coming from. They have 5 minutes to evaluate you. And in those 5 minutes, they can't do what we did today. So we're not here to replace your doctors. We're here to help you and your doctors. Because I think that the cutting edge, the golden, the gold standard of how you would go about treating patients with IPF is to educate them, which is what we did today. Offer them the option to have transplant if they are reasonable candidates, and then provide them access to clinical trials. And we talk about oxygen, pulmonary rehab, treating depression, and all these other things. But I think to get cutting-edge care, you need to be willing to be part of that care. And your physicians, as good as they are, they don't have the resources to provide you that, right? They're all in practice today actually taking care of you. It's the research component of this and the groups like ourselves that have a strong focus on education and research that actually take this time to be able to be here to communicate this with you. But we need to create a group of physicians, of patients, of healthcare allies and providers, of families, and our team that work together to try to reach that goal. And so we've all taken the first step here today, and what I would encourage you to do is to follow our lead and continue to participate, because we will be here next year. And over the next couple of months, you will see when we contact you that we'll have a support group that for the first time, we may be hosting, but we're hoping that in the future, we provide the resources, we provide the physical setting, and maybe the brownies. But you guys participate and you lead it. Those are the best support groups, as Stacy was saying. So I think, this is just my personal view, that the solution is sitting there. It's us. We are here because we're interested in improving your quality of life and offering the best of care. That's the commitment that you have as patients, I'm sure, and that we have as research teams and providers. So I think the solution is actually in the room. Yes, sir, question.
My name is Sam Modest, and I've been retired almost 25 years from the Department of Energy, and I still belong to the National Lab Consortium. I've never heard of IPF before this meeting. My wife was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis 2 years ago. We didn't know what it was, what could be done about it, and what caused it. The doctor, the pulmonary specialist he went to, said, "Oh, you have a little outline on your lungs." And she said, "Well, what can be done about it?" She wouldn't give her any information about it. And I was very surprised being around the national labs. I used to work for Big Tree and with Sandia, Los Alamos. And I was very surprised that we haven't had anything done here in New Mexico, no clinical studies. I think our biggest funding in New Mexico comes from the lab, from Los Alamos and from Sandia. We found out during the sequester how we were hurting our whole economy about it. And I'd like to see that something is done about it. And you mentioned before something about the critical period of IPF, something about between 2 and 5 years. That was the first time I heard about that, because they never told her, And I didn't realize what the duration was going to be that short.
So thank you for the comments and for the components of encouragement about what we're doing. All of us, all of you that are here could have IPF. I don't know. And I want to caution you that I'm hopeful that not all of you have IPF, because it's not a good disease to have. But we need to find out if you have IPF, that's for sure. And if you do have IPF, there are ways to deal with this disease, and there's ways to, as Stacy said, cope with this new diagnosis. And that's what this should be about. So we are, like you are, we're part of the solution. We need your feedback. We need communication with you. And we need to thank Darlene, Dr. Rubin, our panelists, and all of you for actually taking some time from your private life to be here and be part of the solution. But as somebody was saying during one of the talks, when we all rally together and we have this moment of community, we're very excited. But when we go back to our routine and our life and our responsibilities, the enthusiasm may be dampened. And so that's fine. That's okay. That's part of life. What I am here is to express to you my commitment and the commitment of our team to being a presence in Albuquerque and in New Mexico when it comes to fibrosis. You already know that the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute has a vested interest in doing research on fibrotic lung diseases. Now you know that Lovelace Scientific Resources is committed and investing in providing you clinical trials. And you maybe didn't know that before. So I think that this information is an information that should provide hope, and that we should again continue to interact and communicate so that we can make the best of this relationship. And maybe a couple of years from now say, well, wow, this was really worth our time. We really made a difference, like you tried to point out to us.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because the only reason I found out about this CPNC, it was on television. There was one small blurb on television. And
Can we get the microphone? Because I'd like everybody to hear this, because I think it's really important. If you could start again with your comments.
I was saying that the only reason I found out about the symposium is that there was this short blurb on TV, and it was so short, but I caught pulmonary fibrosis, and I said, oh, look, they type. So I'm there writing, I missed the number, but I kept looking for it, okay? And that's the only time I saw it. He didn't see it, and I said, Sal, there's a symposium, stay and watch it, because I was working. I said, see if you see it again. And he never saw it, and I said, God, I wish they had enough media out there, like the cancer commercials, let's not stop here. There was more of that. I mean, imagine the amount of people we would reach out to. Maybe they're not patients anymore, but they have a lot of family that was there, and I said, boy, we would be just as strong as the cancer association out there getting research money funded for the particular IPF programs going on. But that was the only thing I saw here in New Mexico, and I wish there was more, and I wish, I'm going to keep in contact to find out how we can improve that media through public television. That's what everybody watches now, not so much the TV, the newspaper articles, but a lot is really the media
But
that's out there.
I would argue that you are underestimating what you've done today. I mean, what you've done today, all of you, is basically send a strong message that there is nobody doing this and that it needs to be done. That's why you're here. And I think you're putting it in words, and I appreciate that. And I can, to all of you, and I can guarantee you that the effect will resonate at many levels. It's resonated at the leadership of the Institute, because the Institute originally thought that this was a good idea. Now they really think they got it, right? Because now they really, well, we were right, and not only right, we expected to speak to 50 people, and we're speaking to more than 200 people. And as you're saying, we were ill-prepared. We were not really ready to confront the amount of people who actually need information and who are really trying to look for ways to manage this disease. So yes, this is not the perfect 500 people meeting that we're going to have in 2 or 3 years, but it's a fantastic start. It's a great start. And I can tell you that I can now go to a pharmaceutical company and say, look at this registry. I have 100 IPF patients, of which 50% of them have expressed an interest in clinical research trials. Now think about it. There are pharmaceutical companies that are trying to find strategies to actually recruit patients to their trials, because every day that goes by, it costs them to have this trial going forward. And it costs them not to complete the trials in a timely fashion. And here we're saying, look, this is a perfect partnership. You have a number of people that actually want to participate in these clinical trials and can't because they're not available, and you're looking for patients. This is a golden equation, right? It's equal to success, which was the last slide that I had here. So again, I'm actually very encouraged by what happened today. And I think you're right. There's probably many people that would have wanted to be in the audience. Let them know. Go onto the blogs and let them know. You know, this great thing is happening to New Mexico. We now have a group of people who are actually invested in pulmonary fibrosis. They will start a support group, and that will happen within months. And we can actually communicate with them, and we will have an annual symposium for IPF. So get out there, get onto the web, and spread the word. Leave your contact information with our staff so we can contact you when you come back. And I would argue that 2-3 years from now, you will be amazed of the response that we actually have and our ability to actually leverage the resources that the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute has in terms of attracting pharmaceutical companies to bring the clinical trials that are now available throughout the country. So I can't say that the sky is the limit, but that's really how I live. I live my life as a researcher and saying there's absolutely no limits to what we can do if we actually put the energy and effort into it. And although to some extent Darlene and I was a little bit nervous about how many people were going to show up, we did this with the assumption that there would be 200 people. We did this with the assumption that we estimate that there are at least 1,000 patients with IPF in New Mexico right now who would want this information. We did it with the assumption that 50% of these 1,000 people live in close proximity to this room. And so it's not surprising that 100 patients with IPF were in this room today. And I think we shouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of years we see that that number grows and grows. And so again, I think this is a success. This is the only way I can describe it. I have reasons to say that because I can compare it to activities I've had in other places. And I think it's a success that in most part is due to all of you. And so we are committed and we will continue to do this and give us feedback. Let us know, as you just expressed, the next time you do this, I want more advertising in press, I want more advertising in TV, I want this to be in radio, and I want more people to know about it. And I'm sure Darlene will make sure that that happens. But that type of information is critical for us to move forward and continue to succeed in this endeavor.
Yeah, my primary doctor told me, she sort of explained, she didn't call it IPF or anything, but she said there's nothing you can do about it, so don't worry about it. She didn't tell me because it was killing me. I thought, so I believed her, like, okay, so you can't breathe anymore.
So everything really, everything about life is really in the eye of the beholder, right? So she probably truly believes there's nothing that can be done. But I would strongly disagree. I think there are many things that should be done. and I'm happy that you were able to be here and to get information that suggests that that's actually not true. Great, so I think all of you have to go back to your families. Thank you once more for all your participation. Thank you very much.